When a franchisee is able to eliminate one person from their schedule, that's 14, 15, 16 hours per person. And that could be even more than a person, because if it's a large store and someone is able to integrate AI to another level with making drinks at a drink station with a conveyor system, that could be two people. But even if it's one person for 14 hours a day, 15 hours a day, that's $300 gross and almost $400 net after taxes, or $375 in a month. That's $11,000 to $12,000.
Salim Development Group.
Thank you guys for tuning in this week's podcast. I'm your host, Tahir Salim, CEO of Salim Development Group. This week, we'll be discussing the secret to catalyzing your business success. And today, I want to talk about something that's very crucial, which is what are some of the creative ways we solve problems. And I'm going to bring up a couple of in-depth examples. These are my personal experiences on our real estate or business development. I was trying to develop a Wiener Schnitzel in a certain part of Riverside County. The location was small, so we were required to put a certain type of building in Wiener Schnitzel. It's called Heritage, which is kitchen only with no inside dining. The reason we had to put such a small building was because the size of the lot was so small. I used a lot of creativity with my group, my real estate development person, our project manager, and of course myself leading the project. What I did was come up with an idea to maximize our land. Part of the land was supposed to be utilized for water percolation in the ground. Namely, whatever water comes to a site in California is supposed to be treated or kept at the site. And that takes away part of the land, or it takes away, you end up, a developer has to spend a lot of money to do underground water retention. I didn't want to spend a lot of money or a lot of excess money for underground water retention, but I also did not want to use water retention on an open basin. So what myself or one of our engineers and some other team members we came up with was to do water percolation on a solid surface, basically doing pavers, and inside the pavers there would be small amount of gaps, and that gap was used to let the water percolate into the ground. We used that methodology to save on space and save on cost for underground water retention. Because we were able to do that and we saved a lot of space, the excess space was used to make the Wiener Schnitzel Heritage without inside dining into Wiener Schnitzel Heritage with inside dining. So we were able to make the building from 800 square feet to about 1,200 square feet. And the extra 400 square feet was for 14 seats inside the Wiener Schnitzel. Complete game changer, because now you have customers who are not only going into the drive-thru, also going inside and eat. That was one of the things we did as being creative. So another thing I want to talk about is strategic planning that I have been able to do. And a case in point is a project in Corona, or actually near Corona, where we were supposed to do 3 uses: a car wash, a Wiener Schnitzel, and a large office building. The space for the office building per square foot basis was about $250,000. However, after getting the bids, we realized that the cost of the building had gone up from about $450,000 to almost $1 million over 2 years. Secondly, the land that we were built, the office building, could have been used and was little unutilized by eliminating the office building and use that land for an open retention basin. And when it was used for open retention basin, we were able to eliminate about $350,000 of underground costs for water retention. So by eliminating that building, we saved $1 million in the cost of the office building, plus $350,000 in the cost of underground water retention, totaling $1,350,000. And the amount of payments we would have had monthly would have been equivalent to about $8,000, $9,000. Yes, we would have had a really nice office, but it would have cost us $9,000. But the current office we're renting is only $4,000. So I figured we'd rather keep spending $4,000 and save additional $5,000 and not do that development, or the third part of that development. So strategic planning is very crucial. For a layman, you would think if you put 3 buildings in place of 2 buildings, that's huge cost savings because you're able to squeeze more buildings on a certain piece of property. In reality, it actually would have cost us a lot more money. So the strategic planning and good business sense dictated that we eliminate the 3rd building, keep our office building, just do the 2 businesses, the car wash and the Wiener Schnitzel. And that was extremely creative. And I'm very proud that we were able to make some sacrifice, but come up with a great solution. The other topic I want to talk about is, I glanced upon it in the last video, but AI with drive-through communication system integration. That business development model has been or will be very, very crucial for our future success, and I believe for other franchisees' future success. When a franchisee is able to eliminate one person from their schedule, that's 14, 15, 16 hours per person, and that could be even more than a person, because if it's a large store and someone is able to integrate AI to another level with making drinks at a drink station with a conveyor system, that could be two people. But even if it's one person for 14 hours a day, 15 hours a day, that's $300 gross and almost $400 net after taxes, or $375 in a month. That's $11,000 to $12,000. Our rent, or a rent in a normal fast food restaurant, is about $10,000 to $12,000. On really high-end or expensive restaurants, super successful ones, it could be twice as much as that. For example, Chick-fil-A could be $25,000 to $30,000 a month rent, but in normal restaurants, looking at $12,000, $10,000 to $12,000, $15,000, $13,000 is pretty typical. So if you're saving one employee's salary, you're almost making enough savings to offset a full month's rent. That's game-changing. And that kind of mindset of saving money is critical, and it will become even more critical as costs to do business keep going up, especially in California. The other thing I want to emphasize, and we're starting to do that, is grow outside of California. The costs of doing business in California have been so great that we cannot pass all the excess costs to our customers. At some point, customers are not okay with keep raising prices over and over and over and over. So we have been, and we have started to, and have been developing businesses now outside of California where the challenges of higher wages is a lot less than that of California. So that's another strategic planning move that we have started doing, is diversifying into areas where the cost of doing business is less. One additional point of strategic planning we've been able to do is try to have better signage, or combine with a neighbor to have one signage. So let's just say if your pylon sign along a freeway is $50,000 and your neighbor's pylon sign is going to be $50,000. And if you're able to do it jointly, you might be able to do it for about $70,000, saving each one $15,000, total of $30,000. And the reason is because if you put both signs on one large pole, the only additional cost you're really paying is for the extra sign, for the second sign. But the structure to hold the two signs will be almost identical. So coming up with solutions where you're networking with other people for their benefit as well as yours has always been important, but I think in a competitive work environment, it becomes even more important. Along with that line, another thing we are pushing for our future businesses is solar panels. And by having solar panels, we not only will reduce some of our utility costs, but the big charge that we are feeling right now, or facing right now, is demand charge. And today I want to talk more in depth of demand charges. Demand charges are charges that what is the highest power requirement you may have throughout a certain month, or even throughout a whole year. It could only be for 2 seconds, but that's your highest demand. So if you have solar panels installed and you have a battery backup, anytime you have really high demand charges, so you turn on 2 or 3 air conditioning units all at once and your power just surges up and then it comes back down, if you have a battery, that surge won't happen. You will be pulling from the battery, your demand would be almost level, and that peak is gone because you're pulling from your battery instead of the grid. And that demand charges that take the highest demand times certain cost per kilowatt or watt, and that's how they come up with demand charge. So you can almost eliminate the demand charges, which can be substantial. Secondly, you're also offsetting your electricity, and usually you're offsetting it at the most expensive time. So if you're generating power during the day, that's when your utility costs are the highest because of air conditioning. So it works out perfect that even if half of your power is generated or provided with your solar panels, that half is provided at the most expensive time, or what we call peak time. So you might be generating half of your electricity, but you might be spending only 1/4 of the cost because the expensive time was taken care of by having the solar panels. So I could not emphasize solar panel usage even more than I have. So thank you everybody for joining me for this week's podcast. I'm your host, Tahir Salim, CEO of Salim Development Group. Next week, I'll be launching Day in the Life of Tahir Salim, myself, and we'll be discussing different projects. I'll be taking you to Huntington Beach for one of our future projects, and we may also surprise you to go to Norco and see what has been conspiring and what's our update on that construction project. Thank you very much. See you guys next week.
Salim Development Group.